In 2024, we were lucky enough to have guests come in every week and share insights regarding their professional journeys, as well as career-defining moments. We put together the best deal breaker, deal maker segments from the past year. Hope you guys enjoy.
Obviously, first and foremost, like having the realization that I could really branch off and start my own company. But I do specifically remember when I was hit with a cease and desist order from another firm in the Houston market. And I actually went to John Hornick, who's a very well-known attorney in our industry, and he answered my call that second. And I am part of the NPLA in which he owns, but I just specifically remember after he kind of had my back and I had his support, I came off of that moment really ready to take on and be a player within this industry. I think support is everything, and having people around you is everything. You can't just go off and start a company without feeling this support, whether it's in your mind or your perspective, but feeling that there are people in your corner is definitely essential. So joining things like the National Private Lenders Association was the best move for my career. That was a deal maker.
I had been in professional services. I was actually running consulting businesses for a bunch of years and had the realization that my heart just really wasn't in it. I needed to do things myself instead of just advising on other people on how to do things. I really wanted to get my hands dirty in a way that I hadn't at that point. Delivering a report and watching and seeing what people do with it was a great thing to do, but it wasn't for me anymore. And so I had the fantastic opportunity to go and join one of my clients. It was Benthall Kennedy at the time, now Benthall Green Oak or BGO. Fantastic organization, worked with amazing people, but getting thrown in the deep end as an executive running a couple of different functions at that company was kind of shocking for me to go from being a professional services person who was, really thinking in a cerebral way about problem solving to the real meat of how do you actually get things done within a complex organizations with a lot of overlapping incentives and issues and people who need to actually do things on a day-to-day basis. That was transformational for me. And it was just so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
I was working for a hard money lending company, which I alluded to earlier in the episode, right? And super happy there. And unfortunately, it came to an untimely end, right? And it wasn't really foreseen by either me or the company. It just kind of ended, man. And we're on great terms, me and them and all that. However, I found myself in a position where I had rentals, bringing in some cash flow, but for the first time, I didn't have a W-2 in my entire life. And I had to decide if I was going to bet on myself or if I was going to go get another W-2 job, right? So what do you do in that situation? I was fortunate to have Ross, partner of Beltway Lending, in my corner, and two other guys actually that I'm still really close friends with were there, I guess, at the exact time you need it, right? That voice in your head. And I decided to bet on myself. And, I mentioned earlier Beltway was going to have a pretty small footprint. We wanted to have 2 employees, do a handful of loans. And then word got out because people that I had always been there for and had their back, well, they had my back. My contractor and my buddy Nico, man, they told everybody that I was crushing refinances for them. I closed one of them in 13 days. It was unheard of for a DSCR refi. And by October 1st, I had one employee. Her name's Lily. She's incredible. She's always had my back, just like Ross. And but we had a $15 million loan pipeline that we had to figure out how to close loans. Ross always gave the analogy of imagine we're like a lemonade stand right now. He's like, it's time to hire. And I was really against. I didn't know. I've never had employees or anything like that. And he's like, right now, you and Lily are giving out lemonade. And we got a line wrapped around the building, and we need more people. We need more people to help us make and give out lemonade. What a crazy example, right? But we hired 2 people in October, and we scaled Beltway. We hired one of those people was actually Tim, who runs our whole sales team now. In January, we hired another sales guy, and then I think in June we hired another one. And right now we're at 20 employees, and it's definitely a different landscape than I would have thought. And I'm really happy that I decided to bet on myself and bet on our team versus the alternative of taking a W-2 and figuring that out.
One thing that a wise leader of mine a number of years ago said, don't be a solution looking for a problem, whereas go find the problem and design a solution around it. And I'd say I've seen that over the years, over and over again, no matter what it is. It could be in the construction side, rehab side, see it on the deal side as well. But I think that's really hit home, and I think that's why our company is so focused on this market, because we know there's problems out there that need to be solved, and so we're doubling down on that piece of it.
It's kind of a lot of what we've been talking about already when it comes to strategy and being educated and being proactive and having data and knowledge. It all adds up to whether a deal is going to make it or break it. And when deals don't work out, there's a lot of things involved in real estate investing. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of things that are out of your control, a lot that's in your control. With us, we focus on the front end of acquisitions and being able to do the strategy or figuring out strategies and having the data and information you need so that you're avoiding everything you can up front. So when you're making deals happen, and if you know what you're doing, if you're in an area and you're successfully doing whatever deal strategy you're doing, just repeat it. Just keep repeating it. It lowers the odds of you not, or a deal breaking, I guess I should say. But if you're moving to a new area, that's where things get really interesting. Like if you're going to make deals happen there, our whole strategy is being able to see, again, what other investors are doing and emulate it and be able to dive into what, if they're doing fix and flips, what are they doing? What are the before and after photos, construction level? How long are these things taking? What's the timeline? What's the ARV they're selling at or buying at? And then what are they selling at days on market? How long is that taking? All that stuff is valuable information that helps you ensure that you have a better opportunity to make these deals happen. Once you get into them, then at that point, you still have to follow through with these deals. That's one thing we see people make a mistake and break deals a lot, is they make a prediction of what's going to happen with this property. It takes them 6-8 months to flip the thing, and in that 6-8 months, something's changed. A new property's come to the market, or the price you thought you were going to get, you're not going to get. It can happen the other way too, where now you thought you're going to get X and it's actually 10% more. But being able to track that information while you're involved in these properties just is another security measure for you to make sure that you're doing everything you can to make these deals happen.
Pivotal point for me was definitely when we exited our most recent oil and gas business. I was with the company that made the acquisition, did not want to move my family down to Texas, which was kind of a prerequisite for being in the oil and gas space. For those that don't know, Houston is kind of the epicenter of oil and gas in the United States. So when I made that decision, I really was stuck in a spot where, did I really want to go back and work for another big company, or how about take a risk and start up another company, which is what I chose, right? So I had the support of my family, have a great wife who supports me in everything I do. I have 3 young kids. So I decided, hey, if I want to do this, I want to be my own boss. So I took the leap. I was lucky enough to be surrounded with some ex-colleagues of mine who are my partners and my founders in Casa. And, really since the day we started, we've been growing. And what we call is a sustainable growth, right? Maximum sustainable growth. You don't want to grow for the sake of growing. And lucky enough, we've been able to do this all bootstrapped, so we didn't have to listen to any third party tell us what we should or shouldn't be doing. We really just found good customers, listened to them, and that's how we build our product. Listen to the customer feedback, find a pain point, develop a solution through analytics to help them make better decisions. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I think it's so important in this industry that we have the ability to listen to others. We have a lot of very smart, intelligent people in our industry who know the industry very well. This has worked well for me, is sitting back, sometimes taking a back seat, listening, that's verbal, non-verbal, and making sure that you're truly understanding what someone is communicating to you, asking questions. But listening to me is probably the most important thing in making sure that a deal gets done successfully.
Invest. So no matter what it is. So I'll talk from my buy side. So when we have clients come in and we say, all right, well, we're really good at this. We're really good at project management, really good at accounting. We do, all this different stuff with CPAs and that, blah, blah. Inevitably they're like, all right, well, we just want to start sending the work. And they think it's just a faucet you turn on and there's no training. And it's like, no. We still got to do some training. There's still got to be some orientation. We still got to learn your secret sauce. We still got to build out the process manual. And they're like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Right. And I say, you don't have time not to do that, and you have to invest. If you don't invest in the process, then it will definitely fail. And that is true for every industry, not just my staffing industry. So I would say invest. The other thing I always make an analogy on is building a house. You don't just go building the house, right? You don't pour the concrete and start putting sticks up. We want to see the sticks go up. We want to see the house go up because that looks like something's getting done. But there's a lot that happens before you even pour the first piece of concrete for your footings. You got to go to an architect. You got to invest in the drawing. You got to spend that money. And it's no different with everything you do. So ironically, what I find, no matter what the vertical is, whether it's an investor, whether it's a property manager, whether it's a medical, company, they're really good at doing these things in their core. But anything outside of that, they just want to go real quick. Like, yeah, how do I get going? Let's just get this outsourced partner and let's go. So circling back to the original point, invest in the process, and that is critical to success.
The most profound moment in my career really was when I made the transition over to Green River Capital from the servicing side. I think I was at a point in my career that I wanted more. I saw what was available through Green River Capital and ultimately the longevity through Radian. And just building the career in this particular industry was paramount to me, was a driver. And I wanted to make the best of the opportunities I had there within that organization.
I'm going to address this again because I'm in the mortgage industry, right? That's my space. So I'm going to address this to loan officers and brokers, but more so mortgage brokers. The easiest way to break a deal is to hand me an F and expect to get a result, right? At least hand me a C to a C plus, right? Let me look at it and turn it into a B to an A. And what I mean by that is a lot of deals, and this is one of the mistakes that I've made early in my mortgage history as well, is you get excited when you get that application, right? You look at that loan amount, you look at that number, look at the origination cost that they agreed to, and you automatically are calculating in your mind your payday without looking at, is this a good deal? Like, if it was your money, would you invest in this, right? There are certain checks and balances that every mortgage broker can kind of go through, and I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But there are certain checks and balances that you can go through that's within that loan process. And if you don't know what they are, speak to your loan officer at whatever lender that you're dealing with, right? Ask them what are the checks and balances. Go through it thoroughly before it gets into processing. If you can do that, your rate of closing that loan, whether it's making sure the client has no judgments, making sure the property's not located in a rural area, making sure the client submits a screenshot of their credit just so you can see something that says they have a 750 credit score and it's not 525, right? Anything that you can do to turn that application into at least a C plus when I receive it, you have a better chance of closing that loan. But when you just collect an application and hand it over blindly to your loan officer, right, just with basic information, lease agreement, and you didn't do that work, you're pretty much at a 50-50 chance on whether that situation is going to work or not. So from a loan officer perspective, I always say, or loan broker perspective, I always say, make sure you do the work first. Once you do the work, you're ensuring your payday to a certain extent, at least to about 70 to 80%, right? But if you don't do that work, it's kind of a 50-50 shot, and you're going to ruin your name before you get started, because you already made this guy promises that you can make a loan work. So
thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook, and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.